Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Helgor the Horrible event, in which the Helgor the Guardian is added to the game. So let's get into that. As far as the arcane, it comes in with red, yellow, and since it is an epic, you can get them for 200 glory each. So good time to stock up on them if you need more copies. Aside from that, this is very similar to the troop that we had last week, in that it will be able to spam red potions instead of blue. Ends up giving itself a bunch of armor and life, and then creates 1 to 3 red potions. And then if any enemy is burning, there's a 50% chance it will gain an extra turn. Quite a bit easier to end up applying the burning effect, though overall a little bit worse of an effect compared to that of freeze, but the easier accessibility should make it a little bit better. It also gets to gain a bunch of durability instead of just randomly doing a death mark to the enemy, compared to the other one that came out last week, which of course this is going to be a lot more consistent in comparison, especially if you're using it in first slot, because it gets to gain that durability, be tankier, while also being able to have some skull reflect with it, and of course still being able to apply the effect if you don't have any other way to do so. It does get to burn on its skull itself, though most likely if you're doing this into some kind of build, you're going to be doing a triple damage burning hero class or similar troop up in first slot, so you can utilize that with some kind of other burn in order to use its ability. Overall, Flask is still going to be better than using this or the one that ended up coming out last week, but if you don't have access to Flask yet, or if you want to use this with Flask, it can still end up working, and it has that route if you so choose. It also has 20% extra stats this week, which is kind of convenient. But overall, it's probably not going to be used too much, mostly just compared to Flask. Both the two troops we just got that are capable of creating potions just aren't going to be as good of an option in comparison. As far as other things that we got going on, if you didn't get the Mythic last Friday, you can still get it if you want to try for it. Otherwise, if you don't want to get it, make sure to open your keys after Friday, because that's when it will no longer be in the drop table at Friday reset time. So you have until the end of Thursday if you still want to try to get it. As far as the event key drop table right now, it is consisting of course, Blighted Land troops. So if we go over to Blighted Lands, everything you see here, except for several things, are available. Everything except the 4 Roost troops, as well as the Doom of Flame, are not in the drop table. However, everything else is in the drop table. Overall, probably to skip I almost said Bright Forest. Blighted Lands has pretty bad options overall. If you're going to open for event keys, you're probably just doing it for Kingdom Progress, or you're trying to get the Empower troops. There are a few Empowers here that aren't horrible, that can end up being used, and by some I mean like all of them that exist here, because pretty much every Empower troop is always useful. And it's Herald of Damnation and Lammerstew in particular. It ends up converting all yellow to purple, and then ends up doing damage to the weakest enemy, which of course has Empower. Any other option ends up doing blue to purple, and then it curse and burns the strongest enemy. But Lammerstew is used on occasion. It's mostly used for the Life and Death Weaver team, where you end up doing that with Orb Weaver, and you do it with Arachne Weaver and all that. Lammerstew makes for a really, really good first slot for that kind of team composition for Guild War Defense, or even just in general. A few other instances where it can end up being used too, as of course like a yellow Guild War counter day. It's also one of the only few empowers, if not the only empower, that has a convert while also doing damage. So it has that, and it automatically hits the weakest. So if you're doing it on a defend team, the AI can't possibly mess it up, since it will always hit whatever the weakest enemy possibly is. But that's like the only reason you'd really be opening event keys here, unless you're just getting it for completion's sake, in order to get more stars on Blighted Lands. Blighted Lands is capable currently of reaching 22 stars, so it's starting to get pretty high up there. However, one of the main reasons why you might want to get it up is it does have a magic bonus. So if you haven't gotten 5-star yet, 10-star, 20-star, there are good objectives to go for, as each one of those 3 will give you 1 additional permanent magic. So if you're going to be opening event keys, that's probably the main reason why, more so than the troops that you're actually getting it from it, more so for the magic bonus. Anyways, aside from that, as far as the Ward Lore event this week, it is pretty much rarity order. Main thing you need to keep in mind is that Queen Grapplepot is the highest one, with Queen of Sin being the 2nd highest, and then Moloch being the 3rd highest. From there, it is basically just rarity order. So Queen Grapplepot highest, Queen of Sin 2nd, Moloch 3rd, and then the rest is just based on rarity. So as long as you do that, you should be pretty much good to go. And aside from that, it's just rarity order from there. And we do have access to knights with extra magic, so quite a few things that we have. Pretty much any high damage knight will be perfectly fine for running through here. You also have access to every single weapon because it's a knight restriction, so no particular restriction on the weapon itself due to that. So you could just end up using one really big powerful weapon as well and kind of building around that. It always depends how you want to go about it. As far as throughout this week, Tuesday we have the Fell Roost faction. Wednesday we're going to be having the Daemon pet, that little imp thingy. Thursday we're going to be having the Diabolist for the hero class, which is one of the worst hero classes in the game, unfortunately, but if nothing else, a lot of people probably don't have the full amount of EXP for it, so you'll be able to get some more progress there. And on Friday we're going to be having a arena event, which won't be bringing in anything special, just a pretty standard arena event. Doesn't even have a special troop for it, unfortunately. As far as Soulforge, there's one pretty noteworthy thing to mention right off the bat, and that is Karandera. I believe this is the second time he's been in Soulforge, second, third. Can't be too many. He came in Season 1 of Gems of Wars. Actually, that was about a year ago, actually, at this point, because that was last September. So, hey, 1 year later, he's back in Soulforge. But yeah, he's rotated around twice, maybe 3 times. But he's pretty good. Main thing that you would end up using him for is his final trait of Curse, primarily. 50% chance to curse all enemies when matching for more gems. There are other ways to curse, like Cursed Effigy and Mirage Queen, if you need like cheaper options to do so. However, this is particularly good if you're up against a team that has a lot of traits that are useful and you want to synergize it with something like Obsidious. So basically what you could do is have Karandera somewhere in front of your Obsidious and then have Obsidious somewhere behind your Karandera. And the reason for this is if you end up getting in an extra turn and ends up triggering this curse, you'll 4 times curse before you 4 times stun, basically meaning you'll both curse and stun the entire enemy team, even if they have Impervious. So that's going to get a lot of value against teams that are really good with their traits to basically disable them out. It's pretty much only used in that particular instance when you actually need to bring that out to counter it. Occasionally you might end up bringing it out to, use it with like Iron Gut or something for the curse synergy there. But overall, you're normally doing it for its synergy that it ends up getting with Obsidious, so you can curse stun the entire enemy team with a single extra turn or 2 or 3 extra turns if it gets super unlucky. But it's one of the best curses in the game since it is a 0-turn curse. It's just a little bit inconsistent with it being 50% instead of 100%. But overall, with Impervious and a little bit of link back into its mana with an okay cast, it's definitely worth considering. And as far as things that are worth crafting this week is definitely the highest priority as far as anything underneath troops. As far as weapons, was there anything under weapons? I don't think there was. No, Soul Reaper isn't the weapon I'm thinking of, no. Because I was thinking that was the one that had 4 times curse. I think that was actually one of the hero weapons. Actually, it might be the one from Diabolist, oddly enough. But yeah, nothing here. Was that actually the Diabolist weapon I'm thinking of? Let me go to Diabolist real quick. Might as well. We have a class event for it this Thursday anyway, so relevant to still check it. Yeah, that's the weapon I was thinking of. So this weapon actually is somewhat interesting. Of course, don't bother getting it on Thursday. Just get 250 wins if you want to get it on it. But Diabolist hero class weapon actually gets to curse and burn all enemies. This is pretty noteworthy because it's one of the only few ways, if not the only way, to 4 times curse with a weapon, so that's pretty good. And also it's 4 times burn, so if you're using this with a triple damage burning hero class or something similar, you have that synergy with it. So overall, it's I feel like it's not used that often, but it's a pretty good utility weapon. And it's probably not used too often because a lot of people don't bother getting 250 wins on this class. It's a pretty underwhelming hero class. But anyways, while we're in the screen, since we kind of already went over everything else, might as well start going over the teams. So first things first. We got ourselves the Ward Event team. So for Ward Event this week, we are restricted to knights, so a couple different ways that we can go about it. One of the easier ways, if you happen to have it, is Guard's Avatar. He can hit all enemies. He has armor boost ratio. We get extra spell damage for the event, so you can just boost them up and kind of use them like a Rowan, just kill everything. And you just use Vanguard to give him mana, and Cirque and Hadley to have the half mana start, and you basically just tear everything away. And if you don't have enough, you can just upscale with Ursca's Shield, do it onto your Guard's Avatar, and it'll do even more damage. And that's pretty much going to be the main win condition. As far as the low rarity team, we went with all rares this time, trying to keep it as low rarity as possible. Winter Knight ends up doing Barrier whenever it does its cast. There are a few different options, actually quite a few different options that do this, but this is the lowest rarity one. Also gets the freeze on Skull, has a little bit of skull reduction, has a little bit of durability gain. You're mostly doing it just so it's not blocking anything important, and by not anything important, I mean not blocking Black Manacles. As far as Black Manacles, we're mostly just doing this to pressure a lot of damage, ideally with Dark Mages, so you can start with +2 or +3. Additional purple, +3 if you have it to level 70, +2 otherwise as well for the final trait. Either or, a lot of mana burst that will help it along. and get it going. And Paladin will basically one-shot anything it touches, assuming it still has its full amount of armor. And Lion Prince is just there for additional damage, and a little bit of border control, a little bit of mana accumulation. Should end up working out pretty decently for a low rarity team for once. As far as the faction, it is a yellow-purple restriction. Of course, your weapon can be whatever you want. However, you can just use a purple weapon too. This is, I believe, one we actually just showed last weekend as well for the most recent faction, but it also applies here. Since we have access to all yellow, you can just go to Guard's Avatar, use like Quick Kill Rowan, and it'll be perfectly fine. If you're looking for something cheap to run the entire time, you can just run Triple Finesse. If you don't have Nimbus Bow, you can run any weapon from 12 to 18 mana cost. One pretty nice one if you don't have them. If you have any of the Doom weapons that hit all enemies that do the Doom Skull Convert, great alternative if you don't have Nimbus Bow. Otherwise, Black Manacles or, literally anything there that's between 12 and 18 mana cost would work. Main reason for this is to gain 6 mana at a time for all other allies. So you generally want it to fall either at 12, 18, or somewhere in between, so that after 2 to 3 casts of the Finesse, it'll also have full mana, so you can just cast it. Main reason for Nimbus Bow is that it's boost ratio based on the entire team, as well as feeding yellow back into it. And you have to use Storm Colors just so you have Perpetual Yellow, so you can get that additional effect off it. Ends up working out pretty well, and I believe there's quite a few yellows on both the first and final battle for this faction, so I'll have quite a bit of value there. But there's like 2 or 3 rooms in between, but for the first and final battle, still get the full amount of value. As far as when you're going deeper, of course, just do kind of standard Iron Gut Zugov team, and just end up killing it out that way. Should end up working out pretty straightforward as far as the higher level range. Pure Faction's a bit weird. You'll literally just spam for Nocturnia. Your team by the final battle likely will not be for Nocturnia. Main reason for this is it doesn't really have any kind of damage reduction attached to it. So especially if you're going without potions, and then again, if you're doing it tomorrow, you're probably doing it with potions. But you're not going to have like any additional durability other than like that 25% reduction thing, and maybe starting with barrier off the potions. So you're likely going to lose your first troop. However, this doesn't matter too much because it's most likely going to become a full mana egg. And even if it doesn't, it has a 20% chance to summon a Fell Dragon egg every single time it does its cast. So basically the whole premise here is you just keep spamming Nocturnia, and if any of them die, they become eggs, and then those eggs become other thing from the kingdom, and ideally it'll just go straight back to Nocturnia at some point. So you might start with 4 times Nocturnia, but by the end of the battle you will probably be 2 random troops with 2 Nocturnia in the back. As long as you have at least 2 Nocturnia going to the final battle, you should be perfectly fine. And of course the 4 Nocturnia is mostly just for pressure damage, because if you have at least enchant off the potions, which you likely will if you're doing it tomorrow, of course, you will basically just be good to go. Those gain their mana up, you do a bunch of true damage, kills them. It's even heavy splash, so it does 75% of the true damage to adjacent, so pretty hefty damage, especially with potions. You might be hitting around 100 already with both metals and tokens, so quite a bit of bonus. Also, he has 20% additional stats this week, which is also pretty convenient, and overall should make the Pure Faction relatively easy. So great week to go do it for Fell Roost if you still be needing to. And lastly, since we can't really show anything for Arena as far as teams, since of course you draft them every single time and there's no hero weapons in Arena anymore, but as far as the Thursday class event, hey, it actually uses 4 different troops for once, though you could just literally spam Lammers too if you really want to. But it's Black Manacles, Venberic, and the 2 Empowers that we were talking about earlier that are probably the best things that you're even from Blighted Lands. But Black Manacles, of course, just this normal Black Manacles things. Insanely good weapon. Doing it with Archmages, so it gains even more mana. Plus 2 brown in case there's no purple on the board. Venberic here is just here as a secondary AoE, which will synergize with the fact that you're converting blue to purple and yellow to purple, meaning that both of them will, or the weapon will end up getting excess mana. That excess mana will go to Venberic. You cast both of them, you win. That is pretty much the premise here. You just keep spamming them until you win. And with 2 different damage sources, should go even quicker than normal. And should be a relatively easy class event for a relatively bad class that you will basically never use, because I have no clue why they gave it this ridiculously useless summon. It's arguably one of the worst hero classes in the entire game. The only thing it really has going for it is the only hero class with Jinx, oddly enough. But every other aspect about it is pretty underwhelming, especially since it's under that triple damage burning category, and there are just so many other classes that have an angle that are unique enough to make them good, and much better than what a Diabolist could ever do. But anyways, guys, that's the rundown on everything. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Of course, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be going over all the Chapter 5 tasks, and go from there. And we'll keep streaming throughout the entire week as we do every single night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the YouTube channel. Anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful Labor Day holiday, and I will catch you guys soon. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.